A naturally timid woman, for money, meticulously planned and carried out a kidnapping with a man she barely knew, only to find out she had kidnapped her own sister. This is the thriller crime film Sisters, which was officially released in South Korea in the year 2026. The film is adapted from the British crime movie Alice's Disappearance. From the very beginning, the movie takes the contrast between identity and family affection to the extreme. Who would have thought that this woman, driven to desperation, would gamble everything on a crooked path, targeting the family she should be closest to? The story takes place on a rainy night. A truck is parked by the roadside, and a male and female kidnapper are quietly waiting for their target to appear. The moment the wealthy woman Soo-jin appears with an umbrella, the two immediately rush out of the truck. Coincidentally, it was a rainy night, and the road was deserted. The entire kidnapping went very smoothly, leaving no traceable clues. After succeeding, the two kidnappers drove out of the city, heading all the way to a remote mountain area. They had already dug a deep pit in advance, and then took the kidnapped So-jin into an abandoned two-story empty house. The two immediately made thorough arrangements for the house, not only changing all the door locks on the doors and windows, but also covering the walls and attic with soundproofing material, transforming one room into a cell specifically for imprisoning Soo-jin. This house had been abandoned for many years and had no electricity. They brought in a generator to supply power to the entire house. Once everything was ready, the male kidnapper discovered that the toilet in the bathroom was broken and couldn't flush properly. He would never have thought that this inconspicuous little detail would later become the key to uncovering the whole truth. Then, the two of them removed the hood from Soo-jin's head. Soo-jin, who had been kidnapped for a long time, finally saw clearly the environment and the people who had kidnapped her. Immediately, the kidnappers made a demand to Soo-jin, asking her father to pay a ransom of 1 billion Korean won. However, Soo-jin refused to cooperate. She admitted that she is a divorced single mother, and even though her father is wealthy, they have not been in contact for over 10 years, so expecting her to get her father to pay the ransom is unrealistic. The female kidnapper instantly flew into a rage upon hearing this, and stepped forward to teach Soo-jin a lesson. But as soon as she got close, Soo-jin fiercely bit her hand. They then sent the recorded kidnapping video via email to Soo-jin's chaebol father for extortion. After doing all this, the two kidnappers were also unsure whether the tycoon would send the ransom after the video was sent, and could only passively wait for news. No one expected that the male and female kidnappers who planned this kidnapping case were previously complete strangers with no connection. The female kidnapper's name is Bo-young, a defector who smuggled from North Korea to South Korea. She took the risk to participate in the kidnapping just to raise money for her seriously ill brother's surgery. The male kidnapper asked Bo-young to call him Chief Choi. The two met while working at a casino on the Korea-North Korea border. Although they appeared to be partners, Bo-young never imagined that Chief Choi harbored an even bigger scheme, and she was merely a pawn in his plan from start to finish. During their collaboration, Mr. Choi was always the leader, and Bo-young had to obey him in everything. Even for something as small as eating, Bo-young had to act according to Mr. Choi's mood. Even if she wasn't hungry, Mr. Choi would forcefully insist that she eat. Behind the seemingly smooth cooperation, unpleasant undertones had already been laid due to Chief Choi's overbearing nature, and Chief Choi's ruthlessness was just the beginning. Shortly after, Chief Choi planned to go out for a while. Before leaving, he handed Bo-young a walkie-talkie, agreeing to use its sound as the signal to open the door, and left a handgun with Bo-young for self-defense. As soon as Chief Choi left, Bo-young brought over a bucket, opened the bathroom ceiling, and took out a phone she had hidden in advance. She hurriedly called her hospitalized brother, but no one answered. She then sent a message to comfort him, telling him not to worry about the surgery costs and that she would definitely raise the money. After hiding the phone, Bo-young put on a hood and walked into the cell. Looking at Soo-jin tied to the bed, there was not a trace of the ruthlessness a kidnapper should have in her eyes, and she even couldn't help wanting to reach out and touch Soo-jin's injured foot. At this moment, Soo-jin noticed Bo-young's arrival and took the opportunity to ask to use the bathroom. Previously, Chief Choi had repeatedly instructed that Soo-jung must not be allowed to leave the cell, nor should she see the kidnappers' faces. Hearing the kidnappers' voices, Bo-young could only bring a bucket, untie Soo-jung's hands and feet, and remove her hood, allowing her to relieve herself in the cell. The clever Soo-jung wanted to take this opportunity to escape, so she pleaded with Bo-young to let her go to the bathroom, saying it would be too embarrassing and awkward to do it in front of Bo-young. Even though So-jin repeatedly promised to go out for just a short while, Bo-young remained very cautious, pulling out a gun and pointing it at her, indicating that she could only relieve herself on the spot. Looking at the gun barrel pointed at her, So-jin had no choice but to squat over the bucket. Then she asked Bo-young to turn around and not look at her. Bo-young, being a woman as well, didn't want to make it too difficult for her, so she obediently turned around. But just as Bo-young let her guard down for a moment, So-jin suddenly picked up the bucket. At this moment, one of Soo-jung's hands was still handcuffed, and she was at a disadvantage in the struggle. However, during the tussle, she managed to pull off Bo-young's hood, saw Bo-young's face clearly, and grabbed the gun that had fallen to the ground, pointing it at Bo-young and ordering her to hand over the handcuff key. Bo-young urged Soo-jung not to make futile resistance, even if she got the key. She couldn't escape at all, because the two of them had already secured the house tightly. This place is in a remote mountainous area, with no one around. Even if Soo-jin shouted for help, no one would hear. But Soo-jin's strong will to survive made her unwilling to give up. She held the gun and pressed forward step by step. Seeing that Bao-ying refused to hand over the key, she fired a shot directly. The bullet grazed Bao-ying's arm and hit the wall. Soo-jin threatened again, saying that if the key wasn't handed over, the next bullet would blow her head off. Just as Soo-jin was about to fire a second shot, Bao-ying revealed a shocking secret to Soo-jin. They were half-sisters, sharing the same father. This statement filled Soo-jin with doubt. She simply couldn't imagine her father having such a daughter, nor could she believe she had a sister who would kidnap her. Facing the dark barrel of the gun, Bao-ying bitterly accused fate of being unfair, questioning why Soo-jin could grow up in luxury, while she and her brother were heartlessly abandoned by their father. She participated in the kidnapping only to pay for her brother's medical treatment, and had agreed with Chief Choi that as soon as they got the money, they would immediately release Soo-jin. Just as the two were at a stalemate, the walkie-talkie suddenly sounded. It was Chief Choi about to return. Bao-ying panicked instantly. If her identity was discovered by Soo-jin, and Chief Choi found out, given Chief Choi's ruthlessness, both of them would likely not escape death. However, Soo-jin, holding the gun, didn't listen to Bao-ying's explanation, and just wanted to fight to the death. In her agitation, she pulled the trigger, only to find that the gun was out of bullets. Bao-ying immediately lunged forward, quickly subdued Soo-jin, and tied her up again. Then she ran into the bathroom to quickly treat her wound, and feigned calmness as she went to the door to let Chief Choi in. Chief Choi, being naturally cautious, sensed something was wrong as soon as he entered. He went straight to the cell to check on Soo-jin's condition. After confirming nothing was amiss, he immediately went downstairs, pointed a gun at Bao-ying, and demanded to know what had happened while he was away. Although the two of them teamed up to kidnap Soo-jin, Bao-ying was actually also considered Choi's second hostage, just with a bit more freedom compared to Soo-jin. With a gun pointed at her head, Bao-ying could only feign calmness, and used Soo-jin's need to use the bathroom as an excuse. After hearing this, Chief Choi didn't ask further questions and turned to personally check the bathroom. When he looked down, he found a screw on the floor and immediately looked up at the ceiling with suspicion. He opened the ceiling and reached in to search, all the while keeping a suspicious eye on Bo-young. Bo-young's heart was in her throat. If the hidden phone were discovered, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fortunately, Chief Choi's search didn't uncover the phone, and Bo-young narrowly escaped a disaster. But the paper cannot cover the fire forever. At mealtime, Chief Choi personally fed So-jin. Earlier, during the confrontation, the shell casing left by Soo-jin's shot was still by the bed, and any carelessness could lead to its discovery by Chief Choi. Both Soo-jin and Bao-ying were on edge, filled with anxiety. Bao-ying tried to pick up the shell casing, while Chief Choi wasn't paying attention, but as soon as she moved, the sharp Chief Choi noticed. In a critical moment, Soo-jin, to cover for Bao-ying, deliberately pushed the rice bowl to the ground. When the bowl and metal spoon fell, the spoon happened to land next to the shell casing. Chief Choi and Bo-young exchanged a glance, full of suspicion. Soo-jin immediately coughed to indicate she wanted water, successfully diverting Chief Choi's attention. Bo-young took the opportunity to swallow the shell casing. This crisis seemed perfectly resolved, but Bo-young didn't know that the unswallowed shell casing had already laid a fatal clue for the secret's eventual revelation. Because the ransom from the conglomerate was delayed, Chief Choi lost patience and planned to teach So-jin a lesson by filming another video of her being tortured to force the conglomerate to pay. However, So-jin still refused to cooperate. Seeing this, Chief Choi directly picked up the scissors. Bao-ying watched the scene before her, her eyes widening instantly. She participated in the kidnapping only to raise money for her brother, intending only to rob, never to harm anyone, especially since the other party was her half-sister. She absolutely couldn't stand by and watch Soo-jin get hurt. Just as Chief Choi was about to act, Bo-young stepped forward to stop her, indicating that she should look at Soo-jin, who was so scared she lost control. The other party was already terrified to the extreme, and further coercion would be futile. With Bo-young's reminder, Chief Choi gave up on tormenting Soo-jin, but Bo-young still had a dispute with Chief Choi over this matter. They had initially agreed to only rob, not harm anyone, but Chief Choi's actions had already exceeded the agreed scope. Although Bao-ying was full of doubts, Chief Choi became furious after listening and vented all his anger about the tycoon not sending the ransom on Bao-ying. The violent beating made Bao-ying feel nauseous, and she ran to the bathroom to vomit, unexpectedly throwing up the eggshells she had swallowed. Bao-ying casually closed the toilet lid and flushed, but due to negligence, she made a big mistake. She had no idea the toilet was already broken, and the eggshells couldn't be flushed away. If Mayor Choi discovered the eggshells, both she and Soo-jin would be doomed. Fortunately, Mayor Choi did not notice at the time. Then he prepared to go out for the second time, leaving behind 3 bottles of anesthetic and antidote, instructing Bao-ying to give So-jung an injection if she was not obedient. After Mayor Choi left, Bao-ying ran to the bathroom again, took out her phone to call her brother, but the call still couldn't go through. She looked at the footage of So-jun being tortured on the camera, feeling full of guilt, and then walked into the cell, removed So-jun's hood to let her feel a bit relieved. The calm So-jun once again tried to find an opportunity to escape and engaged in a deep conversation with Bao-ying. Bao-ying revealed her difficulties to Soo-jin. She had actively sought help from her wealthy father, but he was indifferent to her brother's life or death. Her brother's condition couldn't wait, so she was forced to resort to kidnapping. Soo-jin immediately said she could also provide the money, as long as she could be released. It didn't matter who paid. She asked Bao-ying how much the surgery would cost, and Bao-ying bluntly said 10 billion Korean won. So-jin admitted she couldn't come up with 10 billion, but she had 800 million Korean won in her account, enough to cover her brother's surgery up front. As long as Bao-ying let her go, she could transfer the money immediately, and they could escape together. To reassure Bao-ying, she also promised not to call the police. After hearing this, Bo-young was full of conflict, but eventually agreed to the plan. However, she didn't dare to easily trust Soo-jin and asked her to enter the bank card password to verify the account balance. But just as Bo-young was listening to the balance voice message on the phone, So-jin secretly took the anesthetic from her pocket. The drug took effect quickly, and Bao-ying collapsed weakly by the bed. Soo-jung took the opportunity to reach the keys with her foot and unlock the handcuffs. She intended to use the phone to call the police, but found that the phone screen was already broken. She ran to the door only to find it tightly locked, and the windows were fitted with iron bars and protective measures, making escape impossible. Just as Bo-young had said earlier, there was no chance of escape. Unwilling to give up, So-jin thought of using a flower pot to break the window and escape, but unexpectedly discovered the laptop left on the table by Mayor Choi. This laptop seemed very familiar to her. After several attempts, she entered a string of passwords and surprisingly managed to unlock the computer. It turns out that the owner of this computer is Soo-jin's ex-husband, and the password she entered was the one her ex-husband never changed. Upon realizing that the Mayor Choi who kidnapped her is actually her ex-husband, Soo-jin was instantly terrified. At this moment, after the anesthetic wore off, Bo-young stumbled down from upstairs, and Soo-jin immediately explained the truth to her. Mayor Choi's real identity is her ex-husband. His surname is not Choi, but Park Tae-su. He had committed a crime before, and should be serving time in prison. It's highly likely that he escaped from prison, and used Bo-young to kidnap her for extortion, planning to flee the country once he got the money. Soo-jin also confessed that her falling out with her father was entirely because of her ex-husband, Tae-su. After the two got married, Tae-su kept thinking about her father's property, which even led to her breaking off relations with her father. And Tae-su was originally imprisoned for abusing his wife. Seeing these scars and learning the whole truth, Bao-ying was greatly shocked. She had initially cooperated with Tae-su to treat her brother's illness, but unexpectedly became a tool for Tae-su's evil deeds, becoming an accomplice. She knew that once things were exposed, both she and Soo-jin would be silenced by Tae-su. The only way out now was for the two of them to join forces. The two had just agreed on a plan when the walkie-talkie sounded. Tae-su had returned, and Bo-young hurriedly tied Soo-jin up again, pretending nothing had happened. Before being tied up, Bo-young also hid scissors under the pillow just in case. After returning, Tae-su remained cautious, first checking on Soo-jin in the cell. After confirming nothing was amiss, he went to the bathroom to wash his face. As he lowered his head, he immediately noticed the eggshells in the toilet, and realized that Bo-young had already betrayed him. At this moment, Bo-young pretended to be hungry, and proactively invited Tae-su to eat instant noodles, having secretly added sleeping pills to them. However, Tae-su, who saw through everything, wouldn't touch the problematic noodles. He picked up Bo-young's hood and walked into the cell, discovering bullet marks on the gun, and simply took off his mask, bringing up old grievances with Soo-jin. Tae-su shifted all the blame for the kidnapping and extortion onto Soo-jin, claiming that if she had cooperated earlier, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Soo-jin angrily accused that it was Tae-su's greed that caused a complete break with her father. During the argument, Tae-su completely lost his patience. Downstairs, Bo-young sensed something was wrong and immediately rummaged through everything, finally finding a screwdriver in a drawer. After Tae-su came out of the cell, he lied that the wealthy businessman had paid the ransom and took Bo-young with him to get the money. But in reality, he wasn't going to get the money. Instead, he brought Bo-young to the edge of a deep pit he had initially dug, made her uncover the tarp over the pit, and then kicked her into the pit. Only then did Bo-young realize that Tae-su intended to kill her to silence her. She knelt down and begged for mercy, saying she still had a younger brother to take care of, and that she was an illegal immigrant, so she wouldn't dare call the police. But Tae-su was unmoved. His plan was to kill Soo-jin and then pin all the blame on Bo-young, making her the scapegoat. After revealing the entire plan, Tae-su directly pulled out a gun intending to deal with Bao-ying on the spot. But unexpectedly, the bullet jammed when he pulled the trigger. Just as he fired the second shot, Bao-ying pulled out a screwdriver she had hidden in advance, and the two instantly grappled with each other. Bao-ying forcefully dragged Tae-su into a pit, climbed out first, picked up a rock, and knocked Tae-su unconscious. Then she drove a truck back to the abandoned house to rescue her half-sister. At this moment, Soo-jin was already on the brink of death. Bao-ying promptly injected her with the antidote and helped her relax her body. Soo-jin quickly recovered and was out of danger. But just as they were about to escape, Tae-su, with his injured leg, managed to drag himself back and blocked the only exit. And as the sisters were escaping, they accidentally stepped on glass on the ground. Hearing the noise, Tae-su followed the sound and seeing the bloodstains on the ground, knew the two were hiding nearby and began opening cabinets one by one to search. Just as Tae-su was about to open the cabinet hiding Bao-ying, Soo-jin deliberately made a noise elsewhere, successfully drawing Tae-su's attention and diverting the danger to herself. The two exchanged a glance through the glass and instantly had a plan. Taking advantage of Tae-su's distraction, they rushed over at top speed and locked the door with a broom. But this could only temporarily hold off Tae-su. Soon, Tae-su broke through the glass door and chased after them. The sisters were forced upstairs, and the three of them started fighting again. The two women were no match for Tae-su and were knocked to the ground in just a few rounds, completely losing the ability to resist. So-jin tried to pick up a wooden stick for a final stand, but Tae-su snatched it away, and the stick broke instantly against the stairs. Just as Tae-su was about to stab So-jin with the broken stick, Bo-young seized the opportunity to cut the electrical wire, plunging the room into darkness. Bo-young took advantage of the darkness to charge at Tae-su, knocking him to the ground. By the time Tae-su got up, the sisters had already escaped the house, locked the door, and gained temporary safety. But they knew Tae-su would eventually break in, and they couldn't stay trapped there. Bao-ying remembered there was a glass window in the attic leading to the rooftop. If they broke the glass, they could escape from there. Without delay, they immediately ran to the attic and picked up a stool. Bao-ying told Soo-jin to escape first, but as soon as Soo-jin stepped on the stool, she was pulled back by the suddenly appearing Tae-su. Tae-su also climbed into the attic through the window. The enraged Tae-su punched and kicked Bao-ying, and picked up a stick to continuously beat her. Soo-jin rushed forward to help, but was also thrown aside by Tae-su. Even though they used all their strength, the two were still no match for Tae-su. Completely enraged, Tae-su picked up a wooden stick, and after dealing with Bao Ying, the exhausted Tae-su turned his attention to Soo-jin, pulling her back as she tried to escape. Facing this devilish man, Soo-jin angrily stated that the best decision she ever made was divorcing him. Hearing this, Tae-su became furious again, brutally beating Soo-jin and then fiercely choking her. At the critical moment, Soo-jin's hand reached under the pillow and pulled out the scissors she had hidden in advance, stabbing them hard into Tae-su's leg. Bao Ying also struggled to cooperate, picking up the handcuffs and cuffing one of Tae-su's hands to the wall. Soo-jin continued to stab Tae-su's arm with the scissors. Tae-su, with one hand restrained, could only resist with the other. After rolling under the bed, he ended up right in front of Bao Ying. So-jin didn't stop her counterattack, continuously stabbing Tae-su with the scissors, while Bao Ying reached out with both hands from behind. Together with So-jin, the sisters finally rid themselves of this demon. They took the keys from Tae-su, went down to the second floor and opened the iron door. By this time, dawn was breaking and both, covered in bruises, supported each other as they walked out of the house that felt like hell. Soo-jin picked up the car remote and pressed it, only to find a BMW parked by the roadside. Opening the trunk, it was filled with 2 bags of money. This showed that Tae-su had already received the ransom, but never intended to let them go. Tae-su, who was scheming to kill the sisters, never expected to be counter-attacked by their joint effort. With this money, Bao Ying can finally treat her brother's illness. In the end, the 2 sisters got into the car. After going through this life and death ordeal, they let go of all their differences and grudges, and the sisterly bond took root in their hearts. They drove towards the dawn sunlight, and the story came to an end.